Hello, good evening. Thank you for joining me again. I had an interesting experience this morning. It was almost like a pre-pandemic experience. I was on my way from the car to the church in Wareham in order to pick something up, and I got into conversation with someone I have never met before. You know how it goes. You catch someone's eye, you smile, they make a comment about the weather, and somehow, almost half an hour later, you are still there. We talked about life, the universe, everything, I think, but mostly we talked about what it is that makes the world a good place. We talked about the way that in the last year we've seen people supporting and caring for each other in a way that didn't seem quite so common before. We talked about church and faith and how good it is when people who see things in different ways or believe different things can concentrate on what they agree about rather than arguing about what they see differently. And we talked about not taking your stuff too seriously and how good it feels to be able to share. The conversation itself was a good bit of the sharing of life. Later on, thinking about the conversation, I was reminded of a little story which I couldn't remember very well, but have now rediscovered. It's a French traditional story. It's a parable, really. And it's about, well, I'll read it to you and you can decide what you think it's about. So this is called, no, I'm not even going to tell you what it's called. I'll read you the story. One morning, the sun got up in a bad mood. I'm really tired of getting up every morning and giving light to the earth day after day, it said. I'm tired of ripening the corn and melting the snow. What does the human race ever do for me in return? The sun was still thinking all this over when the rain arrived. Lady Rain, the sun remarked, you water the earth all the time and make the flowers grow. You turn the fields green and you fill up the rivers. Rain furrowed her brow, broke out in a terrible noise and fell headlong on the earth. As she fell, she pounded out these words. Listen, Mother Earth, you let humankind work you, rip you open, scratch and scrape you. What does the human race ever do for you in return? The earth turned into its own furrows and murmured to the grain of wheat, hey, little grain of wheat, you let yourself die so humankind can eat bread. What does the human race do for you in return? And then the sun stopped shining. The rain stopped falling. The earth stopped holding the grain stopped germinating, and life disappeared from the face of the earth. Eventually, the sun became bored because there were no longer any children dancing in its warmth and light. The rain became saddened at the thought of never seeing the smile of the gardener in his garden. The earth became weary at never hearing the joyful steps of the labourer on her back. And the grain of wheat began to rot in solitude. Together, they decided to have a meeting with God, the Creator, and they said to him, Lord, everything is dying in this universe that you created to be so good and fruitful. Give life back to the earth, we beg you. And God replied, my friends, I have given you everything you need to support life on earth. Life cannot be born except of you and between you, and life will be born anew if each of you shares its nature with all of creation. For life is born out of a sharing of life, and where cooperation is refused, life cannot be. I wonder what the story says to you. I wonder what you think it's about. As ever, I'm going to finish with a prayer. And as ever, if you'd like to make it your prayer, feel free to stick an amen or a comment about the story in the box underneath. Loving God, thank you for people who are different from us. Thank you for the diversity of your world. Help us to truly appreciate one another. Amen. Thank you for joining me. See you again tomorrow, I hope. Bye for now.